What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Unlock Your Potential. I'm your host, Francesco Bartolillo, and today we have a solo episode, which I want to talk about the topic of growth mindset and fear of failure. This is something that I mentioned in the first ever episode briefly, and then it was also a topic of conversation with my last guest, Simone LaMarche, which was episode 2, posted earlier this week. I think it was a topic that I know a lot of people had either messaged me about or when I saw them in person were wanting to discuss it more. And so I figured, although it's a massive, massive topic with so many different areas you can go into, I wanted to do a little introduction to growth mindset and just talk about what that is, what that means, what ego mindset is, because it's something that I think is often misunderstood. And then I just want to share some examples of how I think this can relate to sports, business, personal life, whatever area of your life, really. I think it can be really beneficial. So we'll do that. And then, of course, as always, with our solo episodes, we'll finish off with our quote of the week. You might also notice that I got my buddy Patrick Mahomes over here. And although I am kind of showing him off because he is Super Bowl MVP and Super Bowl champ, the reason I brought the card out was just because I'm going to actually use an example that involves him today, which I think is going to be really interesting for, again, not just the athletes out there, but just anybody who's in these high pressure situations, and how having a growth mindset can really help you focus in the moment and hopefully find that success. So let's get started. First, to better understand growth mindset, we also have to understand what ego mindset is, because these two contradict one another. Ego mindset, often interchangeable with fixed mindset, is basically the idea of a growth mindset, or of a fixed mindset, or ego mindset, is the idea that the skills and abilities you have are innately given. You're born with them. You can't improve on these. If you can, it's very marginal. Minimal improvements are able to be made. It's the idea that all your worth and value is based off of outcome and what you can achieve. All forms of failure are deemed as extremely negative, with no benefit, and basically cause you to be viewed as incompetent. So it's a very negative outlook on failure, essentially. And this is contradictory to what a lot of people think. A lot of people think of ego mindset as, the person who's super duper confident and super confident in their abilities and is never worried or never stressed. And that's really not the case. In fact, it can often be the opposite. So that, in contradiction to growth mindset, an individual with a growth mindset essentially values the process over the outcome. They believe that failure is an opportunity to learn, and they embrace challenges and obstacles. They also believe that your abilities and skills can be improved over time through hard work and dedication. So the two are clearly very contradictory, but it's not often that you find somebody with all of one and none of the other. Often you'll find very high-level, high-performing athletes will be very high ego, but the ones that are the best also have that high growth mindset. And so what that means is, although there is some elements of ego, focus on outcome, focus on, quote unquote, being the best, there's also the idea that failure does not mean you're not good or that you're incompetent. It just means that you need to push harder and push further in order to get better. And so this is how the two kind of balance. They have a relationship, a little bit of give and take. And so it's, how can we move the line from heavy on the ego mindset towards heavier on the growth mindset side of things? And so what I want to talk about right now is how having a growth mindset can benefit you. You see, in situations that are high pressure, and we'll take the Super Bowl, for example, because it's one of the biggest stages for one of the most popular sports in North America and the world, really. You have the last 2 minutes of the game, and Patrick Mahomes has a job to do. He has 2 minutes to do it, and people always say, well, how does he do it? How does he remain so calm? How does he look like he's just going through the motions and that nothing can stop him? And the reality of that is, most people in those moments, they let the ego start to creep in. they let the fear of failure start to creep in. So they start to think, what are people going to say if I lose? What are people going to think if I make this mistake? If I don't win, this means I'm bad. It means I'm not as good as I think I am. It means I'm not as good as other people think I am. And they start to go into this world of future thinking. They start to remove themselves from the present out of fear of what might happen. The individuals who have the ability to perform in those moments, like Patrick Mahomes, have the ability to just cancel out that noise and focus on the present, focus on the moment, what's at hand, and what can they do, what is within their control. And so I believe that although somebody like Patrick Mahomes, I don't know him personally, so I can't say for certain, an individual like that will absolutely have elements of ego mindset, but have such a strong presence of growth mindset that they just believe that this is an opportunity to be better, an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to achieve something. And so the excitement of potentially winning the Super Bowl outweighs the fear of possibly losing it. And so I think that is the moment where you see these individuals with high growth mindsets really separate themselves from the rest. And so if you're asking, okay, well, how does this relate to me if I'm a photographer, if I'm a entrepreneur, if I'm a teacher? I think it's the same across the board. The reality is we all have fears, and our fears stem from this idea that if we fail, we are not good enough. We are incompetent. We're going to be judged by other people. And so we start to shy away, and then we start to get anxious, and we let these emotions kind of overflow. And although we can't control emotions, when we allow certain thoughts to enter our minds, that's when we start to really, really struggle in those high pressure moments. And so what I want to do is I want to give you 3 tips that I've used. These are elements that I've studied during my master's program right now, and through some research, through different case studies and different articles and that sort of thing. There's some common trends on how you can try to improve your own growth mindset. And so although there are tons of different ways, there's 3 that I want to share with you today. So the first is to begin embracing challenges and persevering in the face of obstacles. And what I mean by that is it's really easy to be comfortable. It's really easy to say, I'm just going to keep doing what I can do. I'm going to do the things that I know I'm going to achieve or be able to accomplish, and I'm not going to push myself towards those challenging things, towards those failures. And so my challenge to you is to do more of those things that are challenging for you. Do those things that you don't know for certain you're going to succeed in. And in fact, you might fail. You can even do things that you know for certain that you will fail at, because in that, you'll start to develop that growth mindset. You'll start to develop that muscle almost of saying, all right, I'm going to do something even though I might not succeed at it, because even though I'm going to fail, I'm going to learn from it. And every time I learn, I'm that much better. I'm a little bit better. I'm a little bit better. And eventually, you learn all the pieces to succeed. And that gives you the tools to then take on the next challenge, the bigger challenge. And sure enough, eventually you're going to look back 6 months, a year, 2 years, 5 years, and you're going to be doing things that you never thought you could achieve. But if you didn't fail at them first, you would have never been able to achieve them in the first place. The second tip, I guess, or something that I would encourage you to try is putting more focus or emphasis on the process versus the outcome. So we all know what outcome goals are. These are things that we want to achieve. So my goal is to be employee of the month. My goal is to our team to win the championship. My goal is to have 20 new clients by the end of the year. Whatever your goal is. These are all the outcome goals. The problem with outcome goals is we set them, but once we start to actually go to work, it doesn't do us a whole lot of value of constantly focusing on the outcome goals. Because you see, focusing on it doesn't bring us closer to it. It's the process that helps us get closer to those goals. And so when we focus on the process, we start to eliminate that fear of, what if I don't win the game? What if I don't win the championship? What if I don't close the clients? What if I don't make, employee of the month or get that bonus, whatever it is? If we're focusing on that, we're more likely to be afraid of not achieving it. Whereas if we focus on the process and say, okay, what can I do every day, day in and day out to get better? what can I focus on? Can I focus on making sure I'm making all the cold calls I need to close clients? Can I make sure that I am training every day and doing the extra lifts and the extra runs to prepare myself and my team to the best of our ability to be successful? Am I doing the extra learning and educating myself further so I can be a better employee? All these little things that you do on a daily basis that are part of the process, those are the things you want to focus on. Because as you start to focus on the process, you start to find joy in it. You start to find little bits of success, little bits of happiness in every little step of the way. And then all of a sudden, you find yourself closer to that end goal. But if you're not focusing on the end goal, then you're not fearful of it either. And again, it goes back to that same idea of our ego tells us, oh, we have to achieve this goal. This is the only thing that matters, and achieving it is the only way I'm going to be happy, the only way I'm going to be successful, the only way I'm going to be viewed as, competent or good at what I do. But if we start to focus on the process and we start to enjoy that process, what happens is our mind shifts and we start to say, oh, I was able to do this yesterday, and now today I'm able to go this much further, and today I'm able to do this a little bit better. And all of a sudden, we're in this process-focused mindset where it's all about that growth. And so that kind of leans into my third tip or trick, which is celebrate growth. So it's one thing to focus on the process, and it's another thing to celebrate it. You see, if we're only ever celebrating the big accomplishments, like we said, the end goal, the outcome goals, then if we don't achieve them, we have nothing to celebrate. And this kind of goes back to, a snippet that I took out of my last episode, which was celebrate before the final. And the whole idea behind this was that we should celebrate the process leading up to a final or to an outcome, because sometimes the outcome's out of our control or it just doesn't fall our way. And if we don't celebrate before that, then we look back in a negative light and we don't realize all the growth that has happened on the way there. So instead, start to celebrate the growth that happens. If you're a marathon runner, well, yes, your goal is to run your marathon in X amount of time in 6 months. But every month that you grow a little bit more and a little bit more, celebrate that. Celebrate those little incremental battles that you achieve and you overcome, because those are the things that are going to ultimately give you the joy and give you that little bit of extra dopamine and excitement and happiness in achieving those smaller goals. And those build the foundation towards your big goal. And then again, when you get to that outcome goal, that final goal, you might not always achieve it, but you're going to be so much further ahead than where you are. And by celebrating the process, by celebrating the little goals and the little steps and the little bits of growth, you're going to find a lot more joy in that on the daily basis. And I listen to a lot of podcasts, and you hear from a lot of really influential people who've achieved amazing things in their careers and in their lives. And so often they say the same thing. You get to the top of the mountain and you realize, oh, I'm at the top of a mountain and surrounded by more mountain peaks, and there's more places to go. Or you get to the top and even worse, you're like, this is it? So if you're sacrificing all the way there and you're not enjoying the process just to get there for a moment of brief happiness and then it fades away, then you've wasted all that time. Instead, enjoy that process. Enjoy all those long moments, because those little moments that build up make up a massive amount of time spent on task, whatever that is for you. And so celebrating that process, celebrating the journey to the top of the mountain is so much more important than actually getting to the top of the mountain. So, and that's a very brief introduction to growth mindset and ego mindset. Like I said, these are topics that have been researched by countless people in extreme depth, and we could go on in so many different areas for really deep rabbit holes. But I just wanted to introduce that little bit there, just to start to get people starting to think, all right, am I somebody who is a little bit ego mindset, and because of that I'm holding back? I'm scared to apply for that job because I'm worried I won't get it. I'm scared to try out for that team because I'm worried that I might not make the team. I'm scared to start that business because I'm worried I'm going to fail, and I'm worried about what people think. If you can start to creep away from that ego and more towards that growth and look at it as an exciting opportunity, and if you don't get the job, then what do you learn from that, and how do you get the next one? And by starting a business, all the little failures are going to teach you to be a better entrepreneur or, a better manager or a better employee in the future. These are all things that are part of the process. And so if we can slowly start to inch towards that, I think it could be a huge benefit. So I want to finish today's episode, as always, with our quote of the week. And I'm going to steal a quote from Adam Grant. I actually listened to a podcast that he was featured on this week. Adam Grant is somebody who I recently discovered and is all about, he's got a book called Unlock Your Hidden Potential. I believe that's the title of the book, but it's all about essentially finding this hidden potential within people and how do you bring it out. And so I think it really relates nicely with, this podcast, which we're all about unlocking our potential. And so the quote is from Adam Grant, and it's basically conversations he's had with psychiatrists who, talking with people towards the end of their lives, what they found people regret the most. And the quote goes, "Our greatest regrets are not our failures, but our failures to try." So I'll say it one more time. Our greatest regrets are not our failures, but our failure to try. And so I think what he's saying is, it's not often that you look back and regret, trying out for that team and not making it, or asking for that promotion and not getting it, or, trying to achieve something that everyone said wasn't possible and not actually achieving it, because that happens. But instead, we regret the things we look back on and say, I really wish I would have done it. I really wish I would have tried to run that marathon. I really wish I would have tried to help that coworker. I really wish I would have tried to start that business. Whatever it is, it's the regret of not trying, which is probably going to haunt you a lot more than the regret of trying and failing. I think that was just a quote that resonated really well with me, and I think ties in really well to today's topic. That is it for today's episode. Again, thank you everybody for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to subscribe or follow us on any platform that you're watching, whether that's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you have any recommendations or questions that you think, I might be able to answer, or that we can just open discussion, feel free to leave a comment in the comment section. Feel free to message me on my social media channels. I'm open to those conversations. I'd love to have them. I hope today's episode can help you unlock your potential. We'll see you next time.